Hey everybody, it's Joey. I just got back from watching Clerks 3, the final installment in the Clerks trilogy directed by Kevin Smith. Big fan, obviously, of the first two Clerks movies. I've kind of grown up with them in a sense. I think when the first one came out, I might have been a little bit young, but I started watching Kevin Smith movies probably around 16, 17, really when I got into kind of writing more and having ideas of making movies myself. So Clerks has always been an important movie because it does take place in my home state, where I grew up and learned and roamed the streets and played football after sunset and did all and loitered places growing up. So I have a lot of the quintessential growing up in New Jersey memories, and a lot of that is echoed in those movies and a lot of his movies. So having Clerks 3 come out is a big deal for a lot of people that grew up with his movies and grew up in New Jersey. Not saying that a lot of people could have similar experiences where they're from, but it just feels a little bit special that the director's from my home state and these movies were shot in my home state, and in some way they're about people that live in New Jersey, and that's what's always made them special for me and relatable and all that stuff. This particular installment in the Clerks trilogy was pretty intense. Now, it's not to say it wasn't funny, hilarious. You had all your classics there. Jay and Silent Bob were at kind of top tier in this movie. I think they were even funnier here than in Reboot, which I did enjoy. But this Clerks 3 just was, I felt almost like Smith went to another level with this. Obviously, he pulled a lot from his real life in very more obvious ways, if you're familiar with what happened to him a couple of years ago. Pretty intense stuff, heart attacks, severe medical issues, getting older, having to kind of watch what you eat. And as you get older, you kind of meditate on what you've done with your life. I'm not old yet, but I'm not young either. I'm in my early 30s right now, so some of the stuff they kind of address in the movie is starting to really come up in my life. We have people dealing with severe medical issues. A lot of people unsure of where they're going to go from this point on. And a lot of people already kind of reflecting on what they've done and, again, who they were and who they want to be, and their wins and losses, whatever it may be. And Clerks 3 did a great job at that. Dante and Randall, two titans. Our leading members deal with some pretty intense medical issues. And to come to terms with it, Randall decides to make a movie about his life, their life. And there's a lot of contention caused by that because some people don't really want to reminisce. Some people don't feel like going into the past or addressing it or feel nostalgic. And we saw that a lot with Dante, which in a lot of ways I can relate to. I thought, it's sometimes it's nice to reminisce, but and I can imagine kind of from the character's perspective, living these scenes out almost exactly the way they were, with a lot of the same cast too. They got a lot of the previous customers that they put in the original movie back for this, which I thought was really cool. By the way, this is going to have a lot of spoilers in it. I know I'm already a couple minutes in, but I thought I'd say it now. Really tugging at the heartstrings. This whole movie tugging at the heartstrings. You even had Rosario Dawson come in and kind of force Ghost with Dante. I think they even mentioned something like that in the credits, since she's Ahsoka now. I thought it was really cool that she showed up and kind of worked with him through this really painful period in his life where he feels very lonely. He feels older. He only really has Randall. as, you know, a confidant, and it seems like maybe even family at this point. Um, so it's rough. It's something that I think a lot of people fear, getting to a certain age and not really having anybody to fall back on or anybody to cling to. It's definitely been a worry with me. Um, you know, growing up, wondering if you're going to find, you know, your new family and grow that. So it's pretty intense stuff. And you know, there's a lot of raw emotion in that, and I'm sure it comes from a lot of real places in Smith's life or people he knows. Um, but I don't think I've ever watched a Kevin Smith movie that felt this, and I hesitate to even say the word, but it felt pretty raw. Um, the comedy, of course, was great, but there was some delivery, some performances in this movie that took me by surprise. Honestly, it really shocked me, especially with Dante. That character really had a hard time through most of this movie. You know, Dante's always kind of been down on himself and having, you know, he has issues with the way he's living his life. You know, lived it pretty much working at a quick stop. Some people might think that is not a fulfilling life. And they may or may not be true. It really depends how true you are to yourself and what you want. Obviously, one of his big desires in life was to have this big romance, have you know, a wife, have kids, have that family, and he never got that, and it's heartbreaking. Um, so to see that kind of manifest in this movie, and we see it kind of progress through um, the first two movies. Obviously, the first one he's dealing with a lot of relationships that aren't super healthy or go super well. Then we have him in Clerks 2, kind of uh, in this engagement where he could have, you know, maybe an unhappy marriage, but he'd be married going for his coworker, played by Rosario Dawson, whom he genuinely loved and had affection for, but also seemed romantically unavailable or not interested in having that kind of, I don't know, relationship. They even address it in Clerks 3. She doesn't really feel, she doesn't really believe in romantic love, but it's almost, it kind of pushes back, the story itself kind of pushes back at that, and they make the love seem more ethereal. I mean, it's in his own head, but she's guiding him, basically, it seems like, to his death. We start seeing him like visualize her, and he's in the cemetery, and there's a lot of kind of foreshadowing a little bit of what's to happen to Dante. And you know, you could kind of feel it in the beginning that this is not going to end on a happy note. Everybody's fairly unhappy, in one way or another. Maybe more content, frustrated with life, um, dealing with severe medical issues, dealing with friends or family with severe medical issues. A lot of rough stuff. It got me. It definitely got me. I don't know if Jay and Silent Bob Reboot got me with the whole family thing, but this, I didn't expect this to get me the way it did. And everybody, I could feel it in the theater. It was pretty palpable, that the kind of intense emotion that I'm sure everybody in that audience has felt at some point, dealing with a loved one, dealing with friends that, you know, are going through a hard time emotionally, you know, family, health, whatever it might be. It's hard to watch somebody go through that, and hard to go through it yourself. And it's hard to navigate somebody, you know, it's hard to help somebody who is so frustrated with their life. Dante has obviously been a character that's been, you know, dealing with a lot of mental health issues from the beginning. I think they both have. Obviously, they're, you know, they have their stuff. Dante's been a pretty depressed kind of character since the beginning, and he's been always a frustrated character until Clerks 2, and we see kind of him be the happiest probably we've seen him in any of the movies. Even if it's a struggle, even in that movie, it doesn't really get it until towards the end. There's a lot of playing around, toying, and he finally gets it at the end, and now we know in Clerks 3, short-lived, and he hasn't really recovered from it. And I can, only imagine how hard, having something like that so close in your grasp would be, and then it's gone. So big kudos to Kevin Smith on this one. Nailed it. Still kind of reeling from it a little bit. I got out of the movie about maybe an hour and a half ago at the time of recording this. On a happier note, I think this is probably the funniest I've seen this cast. Clerks 2 was definitely wackier. There was a lot of energy. It was a little bit lighter. Definitely didn't... Full-on comedy for that one. For this one, very funny. A lot of great iconic lines. Some repeats, some new ones that I really loved, and I can't wait to rewatch it when it comes out on streaming or Blu-ray, whatever. Which Kevin Smith noted at one point that the Blu-ray sales really helped with this Clerks 3 getting picked up and funded. So, I guess in a way, Blu-ray sales really do, or DVD sales really do matter still, which I thought was an interesting note he made. So if you like his stuff, get the Blu-rays. Obviously behind me you see I have tons of physical media, and I love it. But getting back to Clerks 3, obviously I'm definitely moved by it. It's stuff I think about a lot, maybe too much, some might say, but it's all very real. It's very visceral. If you grew up with these characters, you kind of are mourning with them. It's hard to see even the actors get older. I mean, they still look really good. There's also this, it also poses this question of, at least when I walked out of the theater, I felt like, man, I probably should eat better. I probably should get better care of myself, because they make a point of these characters not even being 50 yet in the movie, and they're knocking on death's door and one literally dies. So it really, and I mean, obviously Kevin Smith had his own experience and changed the way he eats, and seems better for it. So me, who's still relatively young and can kind of come back from that and not give myself any severe issues, I think it kind of woke me up a little bit to stop eating the crap, eat healthier, which, trying to do. It's always a good idea. I do love vegetables. It's not like I'm adverse to them. It's just a burger is a burger, and you can't beat a burger, but and fries, but you probably should just say no and go for the salad. You got to learn how to say no. Everybody needs to eat a lot healthier. It'd be better for us, better for the world in general, better for the people in our lives, for us to take care of ourselves, I feel like was the big message in this, because, life is long, but it's not that long. So you got to really, take care of yourself and each other. And, what you eat has a lot to do with that. And Amy Sedaris played, I believe it was Amy Sedaris played the surgeon, hilarious. Which he makes a point of, you got to eat better too, to Dante at one point, and ultimately gets very angry with Randall, and goodbye. So all this to say, I really liked Clerks 3. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think if you get a chance to see it in the theater, go see it in the theater, or pay to stream it, buy the Blu-ray when it comes out. I know I will. I definitely want to rewatch it. Maybe I'll go see it in the theater again. But I think I'm going to leave it there. Fantastic job, Kevin Smith. I can't wait to see what he does next. I feel like he still has another Jay and Silent Bob movie in him, or 2 or 3. Those characters still knock it out of the park. Very funny. Very much still. Jason Mewes is just, he can embody that character. He's still funny as ever. There's still a lot in that engine that I'm happy to see it. So it'd be cool to see those characters continue, and I'm sure they will. But until the next one, thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let me know what your favorite Kevin Smith movie is in the comments below, and I will see you soon. Later.